Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Omni viewer, and I figure I may as well make this an author's take on because, well, you'll find out soon enough, because I am doing this as an author as well as a fan of different things. Now, this is something I've wanted to try addressing for a while now. Just haven't been entirely sure how to do it, but something recently occurred that finally got the spark going and really got me motivated to say it out loud. In one of my Creature Commandos videos, I had a little bit of a debate with someone in the comments about whether or not the Invisible Man deserves to be counted as a monster, because he usually is counted among the universal monsters. Look up any collage of them, he's there. Mad Monster Party, there's an Invisible Man. He was counted as a figure among all these different guys. But the original commenter said, why is he a monster when he's literally just a normal person who happens to be see-through? And you know, the full extent of the argument I won't get into here, but basically, he was not sure that it counted because of all things, the Hotel Transylvania movies didn't do anything interesting with the Invisible Man beyond just showing him to be invisible. I provided all kinds of arguments about how being a monster isn't necessarily just about what you are, it's also about how you behave, your outlook, your intentions, all of that jazz. And it eventually got to a point where I asked, what exactly do you define as a monster? Because he hadn't actually defined what he said as a monster yet. He said what he doesn't think a monster is, he didn't say what he thinks it is. And having presented him with that question, well, he decided to respond by saying that it was ridiculous I was taking all of this stuff so seriously, and as a respected author, I really should know better than to be so obsessed and focused on fictional things that don't matter. Which I guess is one way to tell me he didn't have a response, but you know, that's kind of what got me thinking about this again. I didn't respond to him, at least not in the comments, though I guess you could count this as a response in a certain way. Now, first I would like to point out that what he said in response to my arguments is not really an argument in and of itself. It doesn't demonstrate anything. He is instead trying to demonstrate that the whole argument itself was pointless. And there is a term for this you might have heard. It's called the Thermian argument, which was first put forward by the channel Folding Ideas. And it was presented as a legitimate argument. This idea that whatever sort of argument you might make to explain something involving a fictional world doesn't matter because it's all just a stupid fictional thing that's pointless and doesn't affect reality anyway. And a lot of people wound up using that as their ultimate arguments when they found themselves running out of defenses for certain things. Let us also not forget that Patrick H. Willems eventually decided that the best way to settle the argument about if Disney Star Wars is good or bad is to tell everyone that it's a children's movie series about space wizards and we shouldn't be taking it seriously at all. Now, here's the interesting twist. The Thermian argument was so quickly recognized as a bad argument that today it is now listed as a logical fallacy. Something that sounds like it makes sense, but it actually doesn't. Because it's basically arguing that you should not meet a work of fiction on its own terms. And if the terms put forward by a work of fiction do not make sense, you should not critique it because there's no point to critiquing it. And that's just a stupid argument. I'm not gonna mince words here. That's dumb. I mean, if a work of fiction doesn't work, I mean, personally speaking as an author myself, if something about one of my stories doesn't work and a person can articulate exactly why, I'd actually like to know about it so I can improve it later. I want to know about it because I want to improve my craft going forward. And also, it's ignoring the fact that people engage with fiction because they want to take it seriously. They want to experience these works. And if these works are not delivering something that is making sense or is entertaining or feels like it's in any way cohesive, then it's not doing its job. But to try and write it off as, well, why say anything because it doesn't matter anyway, is the lazy way out. It's basically realizing that your king is in check and flipping the chessboard rather than admit defeat. So, yeah, the Thermian argument has been deconstructed in far more thorough ways by other people, but it's no surprise that I don't take it seriously at all. But of course, this initial response to the debate about the Invisible Man was not just about saying that it doesn't matter because it's all fiction. It was also trying to specifically shame me for taking it so seriously, claiming that I shouldn't be, that I should know better. Well, here's the big twist. The biggest twist of all, in fact. Yeah, I do take fiction seriously, and I'm not ashamed of that. Because, well, I make fiction. These things right here, these are my books. These are the things that I have written. Check the description for links on Amazon. I write my own stories. And that means I am engaged in the craft of storytelling. And I should be taking it seriously because, for all intents and purposes, that's my job. If I'm not taking my job seriously, then I'm not doing my job properly. You can tell when somebody doesn't take their work seriously in the world of entertainment. When they think, oh, I'm just writing for a dumb cartoon, so I'm not even going to try to make sense of it all. I'm not even going to make the characters interesting or anything. Or this is just a dumb superhero movie. All it is flashy colors and CGI, so whatever. The plot doesn't need to make sense. People are going to eat this up anyway. Except whenever that happens, it always backfires, and the people who are supposedly going to eat it up will instead make it known that what they were supposed to eat up, they spat right back out because it wasn't what they were looking for. They were looking for something that was quality. And it's the people who do put forward that quality that keep their audiences, that maintain that goodwill, and bring people back to see more, or read more, or play more, or whatever it is. And that shouldn't be taken seriously? I mean, yeah, it's fiction. We know that. There are no giant monsters. There are no talking cartoon animals. There are no giant robots or any of this stuff. It's not real. We know that. But that doesn't mean it shouldn't be taken seriously. It has been demonstrated by many different scientific studies that the arts and entertainment is really good for human psychology. I mean, have you ever really thought about it that way? If you work in an office job, your office space, the building itself is probably painted in very muted colors. The walls are either white or beige or gray. The cubicles are either gray or slightly lighter gray. The rug is perhaps a shade of moss green or brown, but still not exactly a vibrant color. It's not pleasant to be in those spaces. So when you're in your cubicle, you find some way to decorate it, right? You put up a picture of a nice sunny tropical beach somewhere, or you put one of those little Newton's cradle things on your desk to mess with every once in a while if you need it, or something decorative. I'm convinced that's why Funko Pops exist. I personally think they look hideous, but at the same time, I understand the function. They are representations of pop culture things that people enjoy that don't take up a lot of space and have nice bright colors, so you can line them up on your desk and have them be a nice little decoration. Before it was Funko Pops, back in the 90s, it was Trolls. I don't think anybody actually even liked Trolls. They were these weird little naked humanoids with rhinestone belly buttons and brightly colored mohawks. Who actually likes that and who would actually want it in their area? Well, if it adds a splash of color and visual interest, turns out a lot of people did. That sort of thing is done for a psychological benefit. It helps people get through the day. Or when you're home, you're surrounded by stuff that makes you feel good. If you want to unwind after a difficult day at work, whatever your job is, what do? Maybe you throw on a movie or an episode of a TV show. Maybe you play a game. Maybe you crack open a book and read a chapter or two. It could be anything, but it's a piece of media. You're engaging with entertainment that is not representing anything real. It's not going to necessarily affect the greater world in the most obvious ways, but it's good for your psyche. It helps you. If you were to get rid of everything that is even mildly artistic in your life, eventually you would go stir crazy, which is why I don't recommend it. This entertainment is helping you, and you want the people making that entertainment to take their job at crafting it as seriously as if they were the auto mechanics who fix the brakes on your car. You want them to be making good quality stuff for you to enjoy so that it will have that positive effect. And that's before we even get into the idea that art can also convey ideas, teach lessons, start conversations. There's all kinds of different things that art is technically good for. And it should be taken seriously by the people making it. Not to mention, it should be taken seriously by the people who enjoy it, because that holds the people making it to a standard of quality. Quite frankly, there's even a spiritual component for me personally. I've said in the past, and I make no secret about it, that I'm a Christian. And I believe that God put me here on the earth for a reason, and that reason is to be an entertainer. He would not have made me and filled my head with all of these different stories and characters and worlds and conundrums and whatnot if it weren't for a purpose. So, as any other Christian can tell you, if God's put you here for a purpose, you take that purpose seriously. And that's what I do. So no matter how you look at it, of course I'm going to take all of this seriously. Because it's my job, because it's my calling, because I want to hold the people who are making other forms of art to a particular standard. That's why I do these videos. It's all for a reason. Now, is there a point where you can take art too seriously? Obviously, yes. There's always an extreme, and it's an extreme you don't want to get to. You can form some pretty strong friendships with people by bonding over a particular pop culture thing you both enjoy, whatever that might be. Whether it's anime, whether it's Dungeons and Dragons, whether it's Call of Duty, whatever it might be. But If you base your relationship entirely on your enjoyment, that shared enjoyment of that thing, and disagreement over it leads to you guys parting ways, well, then you've definitely taken it too far. That's putting way too much emphasis on a pop culture thing and not enough emphasis on the person in your life that you should be caring about more than the Muppet movie or Godzilla versus Megalon or whatever it might be. That being said, just because there is a way to take pop culture too seriously doesn't mean that taking pop culture seriously is in and of itself wrong. Think about this, my friends. It was the people who took fiction seriously that started the real-life superhero movement, which seems weird on the surface, but it's actually heavily involved in charity work and helping the homeless population of America. It was people who took fiction seriously that turned those handheld communication devices from Star Trek into everyday items that we all now have. It was people who took fiction seriously that discovered the real-life city of Troy from the Iliad and rewrote our perception of human history. If that's what being a Thermian does, then sign me up for service aboard the NSEA Protector. Imagine what the Thermians of tomorrow will do, as long as they keep taking fiction seriously. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni Viewer signing off.